In this view, he's facing the car, bends down, and she backs into him. It might have happened this way, but the problem with this theory is that it requires Karen to hit the brakes at just the right moment.
No, Kevin, that's not the problem. The funny thing about 3D model recreations is the details matter. You can't just swap out Karen's Lexus LX570 for a Honda Civic and expect to yield any useful insight into what happened. The higher tail lights on the Lexus make it impossible for John to be hit squarely on the back of the head as you've suggested. Garbage in equals garbage out.
I'd bet the farm this is how it happened.
Let's watch it again. But this time, we added sound. Besides the fact that this theory Kevin is betting his entire credibility on requires John to hold his cocktail glass upright and level to his head, while remaining bent over at the waist while pausing to stare into it for some unknown reason, we have a few major issues to contend with. And not to beat a dead horse, but the instant you correct the glaring error of using the wrong make, model, and most importantly, size class of vehicle, this theory falls apart quicker than Jill Daniels on a Saturday night. Let's save ourselves the trouble of envisioning this accident happening backwards and use the correct orientation. We can see why Kevin shoehorned a compact car into his model. That's because his theory won't work any other way. As mentioned earlier, in order for John to be struck in the back of the head using Kevin's theory, he would need to have been in the very unnatural posture of being bent over at a 90-degree angle, with his head turned fully to the left, all while standing in the middle of the street in freezing temperatures with only a shirt on. However, as we correct for the higher Lexus taillights, the more unnatural that posture becomes. I encourage you, the viewer, to attempt contorting your body in this fashion. And tell me if you can ever imagine yourself standing this way outside in the middle of winter with a t-shirt on, holding a broken cocktail glass in your hand and staring into it like a zombie, completely unaware that a vehicle is racing toward you, with enough speed to literally knock your shoe off. And without John bent 90 degrees at the waist, it's no longer possible to get the straight vertical wound directly on the back of his head. Even if we were to grant Kevin this outlandish scenario, the impact would have been far more likely to contact the side of John's skull, rather than perfectly to the back of his head, as Kevin suggests. Nothing proves this better than Kevin's own model. And furthermore, this is not a logical explanation for this. I find Kevin's theory to be highly unlikely, inaccurate, and at worst, dishonest, mostly for what it fails to explain. Jen McCabe never going to bed that night. The Google search, the deleted phone calls, the lies, omissions, and misspellings on Michael Proctor's reports, Steve Scanlon's testimony in the days after John's death, Lucky Loughran not seeing John's body, the lost library video, the failure to preserve geofence data, the FBI investigation. In closing, we did find one person who finds Kevin's theory plausible and believes she knows what happened next.
Then a plow comes along and scoops his body down a bit, up onto the grass, but guess what the plow gave him? Scratch marks. The medical examiner said these marks have nothing to do with a damn dog. Stop blaming the poor dog who can't defend himself. This is from a plow. They called it blunt force trauma.